So I'd like to call this meeting of council, November 10th, 2020 to order. Can we please stand? In honor of all the men and women who have served in our Canadian forces to ensure our rights and freedoms, let's join together in a minute of silence. Thank you very much. I would like to welcome Michelle to our council chambers and join our team as our new clerk treasurer. As required under the Municipal Act, the township will officially appoint Michelle through bylaws 2020-87 and 2020-88. On behalf of all of the council, I welcome you to the team and we look forward to working with you. We trust that your knowledge and experience will guide us through the coming months and years of uncertainty during these most unprecedented times. So welcome, Michelle. We're certainly pleased to have you with us. The next item is the mayor's address. Once again, we welcome Michelle to our municipal team, and I look forward to her leadership and support for our staff and council. In addition, I would like to extend our thanks and appreciation to Matthew McLaren for his assistance during the past few months. I want to highlight some of the recent announcements from the province, which are good news for Renfrew County. A commitment for funding PSWs in long-term care for 4 hours of care per patient per day by the year 2024. This is an increase from the current 2.75 hours. Province has provided funding of $5 million to officially launch the Paramedicine for Long-Term Care program in 5 communities, including Renfrew County. The program will help seniors on the long-term care wait list stay safe in their homes longer. The province is reinvesting more than $2.5 million in cash and proceeds seized from criminals to fund law enforcement agencies and community partners through the Civil Remedies Grant Program. Our Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund allocation for North Dakota Wilberforce for 2021 has been provided in the amount of $598,200. The province has approved the Renfrew County Social Service Business Case for Phase 2 funding of $1.137,918. $500,000 of this funding will be used to support seniors and $603,780 for families and children in social and community housing. Province has committed $680 million additional funding for broadband and cellular access and expansion across the province. And as recently, I believe as yesterday, the federal government has also announced additional funding for accelerating the expansion of broadband. On Friday, October 23rd, I attended a webinar with some staff and members of council hosted by E4M Solutions, which featured Peter Kenyon and George Cuff. On Thursday, October 29th, I attended the virtual AGM meeting for the Ottawa Valley Cycling and Active Transportation Alliance. Dave Euro, did a PowerPoint presentation on incorporating active transportation into development and infrastructure projects, which our staff did with the addition of Heart and Shoulders on Letts Cemetery Road, which we will hopefully see next year. On Wednesday, October 28th, I attended our county council meeting. The highlights are attached as information items in the agenda. And that is my mayor's address for today. I have a resolution that council accepts the November 10th, 2020 mayor's address as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Reggie Schoenfeld, seconded by Councilor Burt. I'll call the vote. Councilor Burt? Yes. Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Reggie Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That's carried. Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, then we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes. I have a resolution that council accepts the October 20th, 2020 minutes as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Are there any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Councilor Burns?
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Reggie Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
I'm a yes, that's carried. That brings us to item number 7, which is our delegations. And with us tonight, we have Shayla Brecken from PGP in doing a follow-up on our strategic plan with our strategic plan toolkit. Shayla?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for welcoming me back here today, 3 weeks later. And today my focus is going to be to introduce you to the toolkit document that we have prepared for you, which was already submitted in your package. And certainly I would like to walk you through some of the highlight concepts from here and go through some of the details that help to shape them in the 10 minutes that I have today. So first of all, I would like to bring you to the 2 overarching concepts behind the toolkit's development and, of course, the plan. And so the first thing that we understood about the community, which is typical of most small communities, is that absolutely everything outside of this these walls here runs by volunteers. So the property associations, the recreation groups, the neighbors helping neighbors, absolutely all of those incredible community benefits that we experience here in North Alberta Wilberforce is because people lean in the community. When we talk to those volunteers in all different types of groups and sectors, we were told a story of an aging population in the volunteer group, just getting by with the manpower they have, and that they felt that younger people and different kinds of folks could get involved a little more. My time spent helping to shape Ontario's volunteer strategy reveals that the modern society and the pressures on younger families working in minimum wage conditions, all sorts of challenges with rural transportation needs, these are traditional barriers that prevent younger families and people from taking part in their volunteer opportunities in the community. And so when we can work together as leaders and as people helping to shape the community to help remove some of these systemic barriers about food security, income security, transportation, isolation, feeling belonging, access to our word of mouth networks, all of those things, when we can work together to delete some of those barriers, reduce them, what happens is more people can take part and less pressures on our senior group who are really leading the way for most of the volunteer organizations in small towns. And so what this means is that if you can collectively, as a community, help to reduce these societal and rural condition-based barriers, in addition to paving some excellent entry points, communication-wise and engagement with your community, we can leverage this human contribution. And this human contribution that really operates the town is something we can grab a hold of using the principles of community engagement. Listening exercises, constant conversations, really understanding the needs of the folks in this community on an ongoing basis. This is how we bring our folks here to the table and call them to action to serve each other in a more supported way, a more able way, so that they continue the good work they're doing and can also grow that effort and welcome more people to take part. This is a fundamental principle of all small places. I think about the Good News story in Deep River, where an entire boardwalk was built with gardens and stone pathways, led by residents, funded by residents, and just approved by council. And so this enabling of action in the community is the cornerstone to all things small community development, and it is a best practice. The second thing I'd like to talk about is the vision, and the vision statement that's been placed here is really about the future state of the community that we are hoping to achieve. So the mission section here that we're just scrolling through really describes your role and your commitment as a leadership group to carrying out this kind of thinking. And highlighted there are two things, which is leveraging the human contribution of your residents and optimizing your resources. So this means finding smart ways to use the stuff you already have. So this section here, the three statements, are really just about your organizational aspirations, what we hope to become and be for the community. But the vision is a shared destination where this is the description of the future state we hope to create and that we are likely already on the path of doing. Okay, so this whole goal here, this is an end game. And it's a present tense description of an ideal future state that was not only pronounced by this group, but also the residents. And when we scroll down to page 5, we can see these incredible values that came out of the consultation process. And what I want to carefully explain here is that these core values, there are 5 elements here that were pointed to in the community over and over again, and that these are actually threads of the fabric of every project or tactic you undertake. So rather than being tactics themselves to undergo, for example, stewardship of the environment, rather than to see that as a project, we would embed that value through every initiative, action, and decision. Okay, so the expression and use of values is actually how we flavor the project. I meant towards living and doing things this way, right? The idea of making a t-shirt, well, we can make a t-shirt with a local manufacturer with Canadian cotton or with Canadian materials sold by Canadians, or we can outsource that overseas, right? So we're going to make t-shirts, but how we do it is value centered. So these are supposed to take and flavor and be the threads of the fabric of what you build in your tactical plan. So then I wanted to talk about the Your Community page, which is about those 50 truth statements that we uncovered. So you may be familiar with the traditional strategic planning process called the SWOT exercise. So instead of laying it out this way, what we've done is we've allowed the community to tell us what they see and what they live, but we have grouped them into categories. But within those categories, you will see strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so these pieces were all gathered through a very conscientious, targeted consultation process. And I want to take just a few minutes to explain that process, because in smaller communities, we must do things a little differently to listen and to really hear the truth. And most times we think about statistical relevance or exhaustive consultation when we're talking about a uniform group of people. But in small towns, the variety of folk and the diversity of people here, of their lived experience, is so widespread in a small population, that we have to see these little pockets of meaning. We have to find the stakeholder groups that represent the voices that will never answer a survey. Someone who may not have access to a computer or to internet. Someone who may not feel their voice is valued in the community because they felt marginalization or isolation, right? So when we went through this listening exercise, we were intentionally targeted to hear the voices of the people that are not easily heard. You know, we have a sense of privilege as leaders in this room. We can access politics, we can play, we can contribute, but not everybody can. And so when we do targeted consultation, listening to those people who can speak for food bank users, who can speak for isolated seniors, what we do is we bring representative voices to that table who speak for many, right? So if we only spoke to 3 food bank volunteers, we actually are representing 450 users within that narrative. So it's critical to understand that the voices of the underrepresented rarely show up in traditional consultation processes. Those individuals find it difficult to get to a town hall meeting. They find it difficult to even know it's happening, right? All of those things, the way that we approach the listening was about targeting the voices we may not traditionally hear. And so we also took upon our construction of the survey itself and the interviews that we did really reflect the idea of, rather than pointing out the challenges and exacerbating the problems of the community, we asked them to focus on the strengths and to focus on their talents and gifts, that what do they want to give and how do they want to give it. So that when we were actually questioning people who were likely to respond to an online survey, someone in the community who has internet, who knows about your website and your promotional tools and feels that their voice would be valued, they spoke up and they told us about all the amazing things they want to give and how they want to give it. And so all of that information is also embedded here. And those questions that we threw in the surveys and also in the focus group interview sessions were designed to leverage concept 1 and 2, which is that your community runs on volunteers and that we have a chance to grab that contribution in a better way, okay? So moving on, once we numbered all of these statements to make it very clear and color-coded, but the next page is really what's so lovely to see, is about how each of the 6 projects, and here I will highlight 5 because these are tactical projects. The 6th one is about a new way of doing business in the township. But this table here reflects all of the truth statements that we leveraged. So strengths and opportunities on the left-hand column that were leveraged to design the solution. And on the right-hand column, it's all of the weaknesses and the threats that are addressed by the solution, okay? So why we did this for you was to understand the beautiful synergy of multiple sector, multiple weakness and strength addressing and leveraging in each one of these really neat ideas. And so we can sometimes see in traditional municipal strategic plans a laundry list of projects, 50, 75, 100 items deep. This is 5 items that can handle 50 opportunities, right? So this is we call this synergy, right? That we're really levering all sorts of strengths and to address all sorts of challenges in one fell swoop. So this ultimately brings me to the continuous improvement page, which is itself a special project because this is a competency. This is internal organizational excellence competency that's needed to develop self-learning. Because one of the other traditional flaws of traditional municipal strategic plans is measuring things in huge chunks of time, looking only back every 4 years or every 10 years. This insinuates that you can learn as you go, and you can pivot on things as you learn, develop in a different way, learn as you go, and apply that. And the last couple of points I would like to make here is that you have an incredible range of how you use these different project ideas. You know, we were just talking about the idea of a community kitchen, right? So we know at the Rankin Community Center, there's a kitchen there that's underused right now. That could be rented or supported through a partnership where we could just have a couple of volunteers starting that process of helping to learn cooking and supporting fresh meals for the food bank with just a few people coming together in a bit of coordination. Or you can write $1 million grant and open a world-class facility, right? And anywhere in between. And so the goal of these projects is to really make them your own, right? Is to say, okay, a community kitchen that supports wellness and belonging and sharing, that can be done at a kitchen table, and that can be done at a giant ballroom facility, right? So we have so much options here about exactly how you tackle these things, right? Even the broadband project, we just saw these amazing announcements about funding, but recognize the timeline in those media articles is 2026 for delivery. So if we would like to think about partnerships or inspiring someone to come here sooner to help us, well, that might just be taking meetings and inspiring private industry to show up and to take part, just like in the Deep River model that I shared in my previous report. So what I'm trying to get across here is that these concepts, these 5 projects, plus the competency work at continuous improvement, you can make them your own. You can start as grassroots as you want and let it organically build proof of concept before you dump any kind of money or time into it, really considerably, right? But the whole idea is to go out to the community and see who the heck's interested in helping, right? One of the most important things about concept number 1, that volunteers run your community, is that we should help them to do that. We should enable that and empower them to do that. And so going to them with these 5 ideas and saying, who likes this? Who's interested? Who would like to spearhead some meetings with Opeongo and the school board to talk about placements? Maybe it's just someone who knows how to cook and do labeling for small business. It can start anywhere, right? But it's going to the community and having mechanisms with the Walk the Talk project, having processes to receive that enthusiasm, to receive passion and coordinate it and unleash them, right, into the doing of the actual projects. So my final point kind of falls into step 2 of the step document. And this one is about level of control. And I'm not super excited about the word control, but I like commitment, right? That you can go as little commitment as influencing an outcome, right? Writing a letter of support, putting together a document that goes up to the ministry, okay? Preparing a municipal delegation, these kinds of things, okay? Then there's the coordination level, which is, do you want to bring people together just to coordinate them and assemble them and let them run? Or maybe you want to be involved on a planning level. You want to steer the direction that those volunteers go in. That's another level of control. The 4th is leading, that staff, council, and all of the community members interested will work together in equal parts. Or there's the full ownership of one of the projects, which would be internally fully controlled and not a ton of input from outside. Okay, so when you look at all of these opportunities, the scale within them, it's critical to go out to the community and say, who loves this idea? Who wants to run with it? Because I'm telling you, all of these ideas came from them. And so when you go to them and say, we'd love to support you in developing a fresh food option for the food bank, how can we do that? They'll tell you exactly what they need. And then you as a council and staff can decide if you would like to participate more meaningfully or let them run. And so this idea of allowing the community to identify what they're passionate about and letting them decide how that will go, or helping to steer them in the right direction or fund some things or write grants together, whatever that might be, it's totally in your control of how you decide where to go. And so the ambitious plan is only as ambitious as you decide, right? Everything could be grassroots, everything could be focused in listening and unleashing the power of your human potential. And so that's really the point I wanted to leave on today. is that you have an opportunity to make these projects known, right? We have pulled them together with robust listening, targeted voice collection, with really innovative thinking and coming together on our challenges in rural communities. But really, it's to lever the people here. It's to lever the individuals in this room and the structures around us, and also the immense human talent and care that's in the 3,200 people that live here. Okay, so that's what I wanted to leave with today. I welcome any questions you can share from it.
So with council's permission, this item comes back to us at 8.3 under the strategic plan report. Maybe we can hold our questions until then, if council would agree to that. So thank you very